ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lee Silliman. I'm one of the members of the planning committee for History Buffs. And I welcome you to an interesting program again tonight by Jen Elison. She's been coaching me on how to pronounce her name, because I'm sure everybody wants to say Elison.
Yep.
As you can see, her program is going to be on the potential health benefits of radon mines. But before we get into her program, I hope you all noticed that you have a new schedule here. And we do not have a program in December. You all have a wonderful Christmas vacation, and see us in January for Hotels and Hooligans. Take a look on the program there and go home and put these all on your calendar. It is my pleasure to introduce Jen. She's a retired nursing professor from Montana State University and the University of Montana and some other places. And she is passionate about healthcare history. She enjoys investigating the impacts of historical properties on modern day healthcare issues. And I want you to notice her earrings too. Atomic energy earrings.
That's right.
Take it away, Jen.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that nice introduction. And thank all of you for coming out tonight, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I didn't know if this was going to be, 5 people, or if it was going to be 25 people or 35 people. So I've been in this room before. I've taken a yoga class here. I've taken a watercolor class here where the teacher asked me if I was colorblind, which shows you what my talent is like. But I've never had a chance to actually speak in this room before, so it's really lovely to be here. So tonight we're going to be learning about not so much the benefits of the mines, but the history behind the mine. And I do want to say that I am not affiliated with any of the health mines in Montana, and I'm not going to encourage people or discourage people from using them. As mentioned in the introduction, I am affiliated with the American Association for the History of Nursing, where we really value looking at historical perspectives on modern day healthcare. So that's what we're going to be really jumping into tonight. So thank you all for being here. If you're new to this room, the restrooms are out this door and right on the other side of the elevators. If you need to stand up and walk around, please feel free to do so. I don't want anybody to be having back problems and it hurts for you to sit. So feel free to get up and walk around. So Montana's radon health mines, and I need to mention that this is unique to the country. The Montana radon health mines are the only health mines in the United States. So just one extra unique facet of the beautiful state that we live in. And they're located at the intersection of Interstate 90 and Highway 69. So that would be right between Helena and Butte, right in this area here, going towards Cardwell, Montana. Some of you may have seen the billboards as you've driven in this particular area. The story of the Montana radon health mines is truly the story of how the Cold War and the search for uranium became a way for people with chronic pain and other chronic health issues to find relief. So that's the story that I'm going to be telling tonight. There are a variety of chapters to this story. We're going to talk about pain as a universal concept. There's tremendous stigma attached to people who use the radon health mines for their health care. So we will have an experience with the fireballs. We'll have a joint experience of experiencing a little bit of discomfort so we can be in the shoes for a minute of some of the individuals who choose to use the radon health mines. We're going to talk about uranium and the dawn of the atomic age. We can't talk about radon without talking about uranium, right? Those two go together. We'll talk about the Cold War, the threat to national security, a very unexpected outcome that happened when miners were searching for uranium. I've got probably 100 testimonials, but I'm not going to read all of them. I'll read about 5 testimonials from the mine visitors. We'll talk about due diligence that happened at the Free Enterprise Health Mine. That's the mine that I'm most familiar with, that I've done my research at. And then I'll introduce you via PowerPoint to a researcher out of California who has done extensive qualitative studies with individuals who have used the mines and why they believe that it has been helpful for them, or they find hope for relief from pain in those mines. But let's start off with our fireballs. And I don't know, did everybody get a fireball? Fireball, fireball, this woman back here needs a fireball. You just gave her one. You need a fireball, great. And a Kleenex. Okay. Oh, do you need a Kleenex also here? Let's get you one. No, it's not going to give you tears. What I'd like you to do is open up your fireballs and put them in your mouth. Here you go. I'm going to let you deliver. It's like Easter, right? Put it in your mouth, and we're just going to hold it there for about 30 seconds. If it is too hot for you, please feel free to just spit it out and put it into the Kleenex. I don't want anybody to really, truly be in pain. I used to teach nursing ethics. I do know that I cannot inflict pain upon you involuntarily, so this is a voluntary experience. It's pretty good, I'm hearing. Okay, pretty good. Okay, we'll just wait here for a second. I saw one come out of a mouth a minute ago. These are the hottest fireballs on the market, in case you're interested. About 110 degrees in your mouth. Mm-hmm. Okay, do you need a Kleenex? Do you need to spit yours out? You got it? Okay. Okay. So how many of you needed to expel that fireball pretty darn quickly? Right, that would be me. I won't even put one in my mouth. We used to have a Japanese exchange student live with us for about a year, a number of years ago, and she really loved the hot, spicy stuff, and I don't. And she would say, "Jen, you have such a kitten tongue." So it looks like we've got some other kitten tongues here in the room. How about raise your hand if it was uncomfortable but you were able to tolerate it? Okay? And how about those of you who think this is child's play? I mean, let's add the sriracha, let's add it hot. Okay, so we got 1 2, 3 asbestos-tongued people. Okay, so we know that pain is a universal concept, but what is this just, interesting little experience tell you about pain? Some people can tolerate it more than others. Yeah, what's your comment? Sure. Some people are way more tolerant of pain than other people. I am a weenie. I mean, I cry if I think I'm going to have an ingrown toenail or something. I don't tolerate pain well. Other people, absolutely. And we experience pain differently, and we express pain differently. We describe it differently. Some people say pain is burning, or it's an itch, or it's throbbing, right? We all have known of different ways of describing pain. Well, in the 1970s, and I remember this very well, Dale, I don't know if you remember when this was first unrolled for us, there was an attempt made in the medical world to quantify pain. So we can measure respirations and heart rate and blood pressure and all of those things, but there wasn't a way to really measure pain. So we use this in particular in hospital settings. So let's say that you are going to be going in, you're in a lot of pain in the hospital. I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 to rate your pain. Then I'm going to give you pain medication, and half an hour later I'm going to come back in and say, can you please rate your pain again, right? So it was a way for us to assess whether or not pain medication had worked well or not. So I'm going to ask in this room, has there ever been anybody who's here? Never pain ever in your life? Okay. How about over here, the 1 to 3, moderate pain? Still kind of a smiley face. That's been your worst pain. Okay, let's go up the scale. Severe to very severe. Been the worst pain you've ever had. Okay? And how about this poor number 10? The worst pain possible. Okay, we've got a couple folks here with the worst pain possible. I'm terribly sorry for those of you who are up there in that red zone. So now what I want you to imagine is, we're shifting gears here for a minute. We're moving from pain to what activity you love to do. Something you love to do. What do you love to do? To ski. Anybody else in the room like to ski? I think you're the only skier in the room. Okay. What do you like to do? To hike. Any other hikers in the room? Oh yeah, lots of hands. You're in good company. Lots of hands going up. All right, what do you like to do? To dance. Any other dancers in the room? Okay, we got a couple of dancers. Oh, a bunch of dancers. Great. And let's do one more. In the back, what do you like to do? To draw. Okay, so any other artists in the room? I try. But remember, they asked me if I was colorblind. Yeah, I try. I'd like to play pickleball. Any other pickleballers in the room? Yeah, okay. So now imagine what it would be like if your pain was at that worst pain possible and you were unable to engage in drawing, dancing, skiing, pickleballing, any of those things. And to what extreme would you go to in order to relieve that pain so that you could enjoy life again? Those are the shoes of the people who are seeking relief in the radon health mines. They've tried everything else. Nothing else seems to be working. And their quality of life is miserable. So they are willing to try just about any sort of alternative to get that pain relieved. So this is the population that we're working with here. But let's do some time traveling. That's why we're all here. So this is a very famous letter. I imagine many of you in this room are familiar with this. It's a letter from Dr. Albert Einstein to President Roosevelt about a month before the beginning of the Second World War. Anybody familiar with this? Yeah, yes, yeah. And in this letter, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but in this letter, Dr. Einstein is making the president aware of the fact that uranium can be used to start to break the atom and can be used for nuclear war purposes, can make destructive bombs. And he's also warning the president that Germany may have the same knowledge and that we need to chop, let's get going on this, Mr. President. We can't just be sitting around because Germany may have the same information that we have. So within 4 years, the Manhattan Project is up and running. Amazing. It only took 4 years for that to get up and running. So we've got Manhattan, and then there were 3 other places in the United States that were involved with the Manhattan Project. And who can tell me what they are? Who said Los Alamos? And what were they doing there? Yep, developing plutonium and developing bombs and testing bombs. Right, so that's Los Alamos. What are the other 2? Hanford, Washington, what were they doing there, Paul?
I think that's the place they were working with plutonium.
Yeah, exactly. We're working with plutonium. And the third place, anybody remember? Yeah. Pardon me? Yeah, what was in Tennessee?
It was where they were finding the uranium or plutonium, I'm not
Sure,
sure.
it's-
They used one of the bombs for uranium.
Right, exactly right, Maria. One was uranium, one was plutonium. That was at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the Clinton Works, and that's where they were refining uranium. So this was top secret work. Thousands of people working at those 3 different areas that had no clue what their part, their day-to-day work was doing to contribute towards developing atomic warfare. Top secret. Actually, this was a billboard outside of the Oak Ridge Museum. At Oak Ridge, they're refining uranium. This is where I may have to ask my friend Paul here, who's a geologist. I always hope there's like a geologist and a physicist in the room, because there's a lot of questions about physics that I can't answer here. But here in Oak Ridge, boy, that one didn't turn out very well at all. I don't know what happened to that. This is supposed to be a complete poster there, but that's okay. So this is a piece of uranium, a mineral called pitchblende, which has one of the highest concentrations of uranium. Uranium doesn't come out of the earth just by itself. It's always going to be embedded in some other substance to form a mineral. And there are about 100 different minerals that contain uranium. And the isotopes in uranium, it's like the U-235, 238, and 231, I think. They need to have that uranium refined to a certain extent before it can split an atom. So that's all we're going to talk about there. The dawn of the atomic age, that is a picture of the gadget. Somebody talked about Los Alamos and how that's where the bombs were tested. So that's what happened there, 1945. Here's why we can't talk about radon unless we talk about uranium. So we live in the state of Montana. Montana has the 7th highest amount of uranium in our ground. It's all over the world, but underneath Montana, we've got the 7th highest amount of uranium. Anybody want to guess which state has the highest? Alaska. Yeah, Alaska has the highest. How about the lowest? Hawaii, right? Because of all that porous ground in Hawaii. But radon is the radioactive gas that is released as uranium is decomposing. It takes billions of years for that to happen. It is odorless. We can't see it. We can't smell it. You can't touch it. And it is everywhere. Anybody here ever had to have your radon mitigation in your home? Okay. And you remember what the person who came to do the probably the assessment and then the work for you, did they give you a number? You know, we need to keep it between this number of picocuries per liter or no? You don't remember? Dale, do you remember yours? Right? Yeah, they usually want 0, right, 0. And they measure radon in picocuries per liter. 4 picocuries per liter or greater is dangerous. So we're going to remember that number 4, right? Because we're going to compare that number to the number of picocuries in the mines. And we're getting there to the mines here in just a couple minutes. September 2nd, 1945, the end of World War II. What a day of relief in the country, globally. It's a fabulous day. But that relief did not last long because September 1952, look at the headlines on the paper. What does it say? Russia has an atomic bomb. the beginning of the Cold War. Now, when I was a little girl in elementary school, we used to have bomb drills. And I don't know if anybody else here did. Yes. And what do you remember doing in your bomb drill? Going underneath your desk. Now, I don't know how that was going to save us from a nuclear fallout, but that's what we did, right? We all hid under our desks, so worried that because Russia has the bomb, and all of a sudden they're going to bomb us. So during the Manhattan Project, the uranium that was used came from the Congo. And the government and the Atomic Energy Commission, hence my earrings, which was formed in 1947, got together and decided that, oh my gosh, we better have uranium coming from the United States. We don't want any other country getting the uranium, and we need to have a really good supply of uranium. So what the Atomic Energy Commission did was they encouraged citizens to go out and hunt for uranium. And just like gold fever of '49, all of a sudden across the country, there is uranium fever. Everybody is out looking for uranium. So the book that I have, my Prospecting for Uranium book, was 1951. And in it, they describe different types of minerals that are going to be good sources of uranium, where to look for uranium. Can you use public lands? Can you not use public lands? Can you use reservation land or not reservation land? What kind of equipment you need to use. Apparently, you're not supposed to put a Geiger counter too close to a campfire because the batteries can melt. And then how much money they're willing to pay citizens of the United States for uranium. $3.50 a pound, which today would be about $34 a pound. That's big money. And if you discovered a deposit of uranium, $10,000 bonus. Now, you had to deliver on the goods, right? You couldn't just call the Atomic Energy Commission and say, hey, 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 I found this deposit of uranium. They wanted you to also then provide, I can't remember how many tons of uranium out of that deposit before you would get your $10,000. I also loved the frequently asked questions in here. So remember, this is 1951. Is it dangerous to prospect for radioactive minerals? And here's their answer. It's no more dangerous to prospect for radioactive minerals than it is to prospect for any other type of mineral. The radioactivity contained in rocks is not dangerous to humans unless those rocks are held in close contact with the skin for very long periods of time. So interesting in itself, and also there's no mention of radon, right? Radon as a radioactive gas was discovered in 1900. So people knew about radon as a radioactive gas, but there's no mention of it during this time period. So here's what happened. Any of you remember going to the shoes? Tell us about it. What would I do with this? I'm going to buy a pair of shoes. You put your foot in the opening. Okay, so you would put your foot in the opening, and there's 3 little viewies up on top. So if you're the person trying to buy the shoe, you could look down, and what would you see? So you'd see an x-ray of your foot inside of that shoe that you want to buy. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, I think that's really cool. And then there's a little viewer for maybe your mom or somebody else. And then over here is where the shoe salesperson would also be looking. So nobody is wearing a lead apron at this point. Yes, sir?
I owned a shoe store for 50 years, and I asked the mercantile to donate one of those to the Historical Museum, and I hear it's somewhere near the front door, a fluoroscope. And people probably x-rayed their feet sometimes a little bit too often.
Yeah.
It's unshielded radiation.
It's unshielded. Yeah, thank you I love that. So the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula, and it's there. Fabulous. Paul, you and I will go check that out together. Cool. So, but no, there's no warnings or anything here. Well, it's unshielded radioactivity, right? It's an unshielded X-ray. When you go to have dental work done, they always put a lead apron, particular over the soft tissue and your internal organs, so that that's not getting radiation. It was a little dangerous. Anybody remember this comic book? Dagwood and Blondie. This was about 1949. Maybe you had older siblings or older cousins that knew about this. Dagwood splits the atom and gets a lovely reward from Blondie, right? He gets a kiss on the cheek. Over here, he's saying, I did it. I got the touch. The thing split. Uranium is 235. That's the best kind of uranium. Anybody recognize this gentleman here? Or this name, General Leslie Groves. Maria's shaking her head back. Maria, who's Leslie Groves?
He was, I don't remember exactly what position, but he did the Manhattan Project.
Right, he was the director of the Manhattan Project, and he is co-writing the introduction to the Dagwood and Blondie comic book about uranium. We've got all sorts of kids' games going. And you notice they all say safe, fun, prospect for uranium. They've all got the same Atomic Energy Commission logo on them. This particular toy right here we're going to hear about because Maria is going to come down and help me. We've got about a 2-minute YouTube video about this game, which has since been called the most dangerous game ever produced for children. And we're going to find out why. So Maria knows how to do this and I don't. So yes, yeah. This is a new computer setup, and this is day one of trying to make it work. And you're doing great. Thank you. So just stay up here.
If you were to Google the world's most dangerous toy, this is actually what will pop up on your screen. The Atomic Energy Lab Kit by A.C. Gilbert. It's because it comes with 3 sources of radiation and 4 uranium ores that are also radioactive. My name is Vula Saradakis. I'm a curator here at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. Now, A.C. Gilbert claimed, and the makers claimed, that there was nothing dangerous about it. It really did emit very, very low amounts of radiation. But I probably would not encourage children to hold these samples next to their body all day long. Looks like a lovely little red paper suitcase with snake skin, it's not snake skin, on the outside of the box. And when you open it, you see this lovely picture of a young man who is working the Wilson cloud chamber. It comes with an instruction booklet, the comic book, How Dagwood Split the Atom, and it comes with a book on how to prospect uranium as well. You can use your own Geiger counter to do that because the kit comes with its very own Geiger counter with batteries. And it also comes with these rubber balls that are red and green with little rods so that you can build your own models of alpha particles. The Wilson cloud chamber, which you assemble so that you could actually see the vapor trails of alpha particles. The spinthariscope, just a tube with a lens, and you look through it and you can actually see what's called scintillations, which is basically alpha decay. It also comes with an electroscope because it has a scale and indicator inside of it, and you look through the tube and you can actually see how much ionization, radiation, comes from the particular source that you're using, and you can use either the alpha, beta, or gamma sources, or you can use one of the 4 uranium ores that come with the kit. They made fewer than 5,000 of these units. They were only made in 1950 and 1951, and they sold poorly. They were discontinued after only 2 years. And the reason for that is not because of any radioactivity concerns, but rather because it was expensive. It was $50. And in 1950, $50 is the equivalent of about $520 by today's standards, and that's pretty expensive. It's like a black box of science and technology, but then you open it like Pandora's box, and then you play with it, and then you realize later on down the road that there might be some hidden dangers there.
Great, thanks. So I looked up to see if I could buy one of these. And actually, they just sold, one sold at auction last year for $14,000, which is just amazing. Lucille Ball also, and Ricky and Ethel and Fred also got wrapped up in the uranium fever. And I believe that Ethel probably wore her pearls when she was out there hunting for uranium. So it was incredible what was going on across the country. Elton Britt was a pretty famous country western singer, and as for our recessional this evening, I will play on my phone for you his version of Uranium Fever, so we'll have something to look forward to as we leave this evening. This is just to compare what the citizens of the country were being told to just go out with their bare hands, hunt for uranium, go ahead and immerse yourself in a uranium mine. This is just a comparison of the gear that was used at Oak Ridge. Now, of course, they were trying to refine uranium at Oak Ridge, right? They were more up close and personal, maybe. But a complete hazmat outfit, gloves, mask, hard hat, whatever. None of that, of course, is being shared with the citizens who are out there looking for uranium. But let's go to Montana and find out about these mines. Anybody ever see this billboard? It's outside of Cardwell, Montana. Yeah, and what'd you think when you saw that?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, how about,
I just thought there was a mine somewhere around there.
you thought there was a mine somewhere around there? Yeah, the Mary Widow Health Mine. You may also have, at some point in your life, driven down Main Street of Boulder, Montana. Now, this is an older picture of Boulder, but I was there about a year ago, and it doesn't look that much different than this picture right here. Of course, the cars are more modern, and I believe that street off to the side is paved now. And you may have seen this billboard here. This was the original logo for the Free Enterprise Health Mine. And again, that's the mine that we are going to be digging into here in just a minute. Notice the gentleman is throwing away his crutches. He is kicking up his heels. It's a great logo. This is their new logo. They've modernized things a little bit. I kind of like the old one better, but that's okay. This one is pretty too. So how in the world did this come about? The Uranium Mountain Mine is about a quarter of a mile up the hill behind the Free Enterprise Health Mine. It's also a defunct silver mine. And I just love these pictures, especially the one with the little deer coming up out of the mine, because it looks like the deer's got this miasma of radon coming out behind it. And people would just go down into the shafts, right, down into the ground. Well, I want to introduce you to Wade Lewis. And Wade is the one who looks like the ghost over there. He's the second one over from the left. Sorry about that. I just could not get him to darken up any more than that. Wade was a geologist and a mining engineer who purchased the old Silver Bell mine in Boulder, Montana, elevation about 4,900 feet. In, I think, about 1949, he purchased it and started a company called the Elkhorn Mining Company. Well, remember that $10,000 bonus? If you owned a mine, Paul, if you owned a mine, would you be looking for uranium in it, knowing that there's this $10,000 bonus hanging over your head? Yes. Well, that's what Wade did. And he discovered that he had high quality uranium in his mine. I mean, this was a great thing. He sends off a sample to the Atomic Energy Commission, comes back that he's got just not uranium, he has high grade uranium. I mean, this is a bonanza for him. And this is his first shipment of high grade uranium in these burlap bags. There's probably about 20 of these bags getting ready to be loaded onto a railroad car and to be sent off to Utah, which was the first step in the refinement process. In 1951, there was a mining engineer from Los Angeles, California, who came to visit Wade's mine because he was curious about, gee, what does the uranium look like? Can I have a chance to go down into your mine to see what it's like? Wade, a very lovely man, said, absolutely. So the gentleman from Los Angeles was also visiting with his wife, who had bursitis in her right shoulder, to the point where she was unable to lift a kitchen utensil. So I don't know if that meant a 20-pound iron skillet, or if that meant a teaspoon. We don't know. Just that it was extremely painful for her. So she and her husband stepped into the mining cage and went down 85 feet down into the ground, because that's the level that the Free Enterprise, now called the Free Enterprise Health Mine, is, 85 feet down. I don't know. I don't have any idea how long they stayed underground. Walked around the drift a little bit, came back up, then they drove to Helena, Montana for the night, and the next morning, the husband called Wade and said, I don't know what happened, but my wife has no pain in her right shoulder. It is gone. I don't know what happened. And the wife, who is quoted as saying, if for years you have had tears in your eyes from the pain, you would know that this was a wonderful thing. She went back to California and mentioned to a girlfriend of hers who also had bursitis that this miracle had happened. That woman came to the mine, went down the 85 feet, came back up, her pain was gone, and I don't know what communication techniques these two women used, right? There's no cell phone, there's no Facebook, there's nothing except a telegraph, a regular telephone, and paper, right? But within months, there were 750 people who came to try to get into this mine for pain relief. It was amazing. There were articles in the paper. There were articles in the Independent Record out of Helena. There were articles in probably the Missoulian, out of the Great Falls Tribune. This is all about 1951, 1952. And then the bonanza happened when Life magazine in 1952, we can't see the date on the bottom here, it's June 1952, ran an article about the mines. And then, I mean, honestly, the stampede occurred. And I love this picture up here. I hope you can see that clearly. Admitted in groups of 50, 300 to 400 people a day. A near riot broke out when people thought they could not get into the mine. 300 to 400 people a day. It was incredible. Now, how many of you have been to Boulder, Montana? Is it a big metropolis? No, it is a tiny little crossroads. It's the county seat of Jefferson County, but it's not a very big place. And back in the day, it was even smaller. The parking lot looks like one of our very popular trailheads. This woman here, whose job it was to ferry people back and forth. So the train depot and the bus depot were about half a mile away from the Free Enterprise Health Mine. So all day long, she is transporting people from the depots to the mine, back to wherever they were going to stay. I mean, I imagine there were mom and pop hotels that kind of sprung up in Boulder. Maybe they were camping, but all day long, because the recommendation was that you use the mine for about 3 hours a day, but 3 separate hours, right? 3 separate hours. So imagine her back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, transporting people. I don't think so. Probably it was just part of the package. So let's think about what it's like down inside that mine. So it's 85 feet down, which is about the height of the Wilma Theater. 52 degrees year-round. And the mine is, it's what's called a drift, which is a horizontal, almost an alley, is that about right way you would describe it, Paul? It follows ore or rock. So it is about 400 feet long, 85 feet down, 400 feet long. Statue of Liberty is like 305 feet. I can't remember because I don't follow football. Sorry, I shouldn't say that in this place. How long is a football field? 100 yards, that doesn't help me because I'm thinking feet. 300 feet, okay, so the drift is longer than the football field. So that gives us a sense of what it's like. So here we go. We are now in the lobby of the Free Enterprise Health Mine. This is about 1952. They had just put in their Otis elevator. They paid $30,000 to put in an elevator because it wasn't safe for people to just get into that little wire cage and go down into the ground. And they couldn't put anybody in a wheelchair into that wire cage to go down into the ground. So they invested in the Otis elevator. So as you can see, people are checked in. Everybody gets a number around their neck. Everybody gets a blankie because it's 52 degrees. It is cold. It's cold down there. It is really kind of chilly. So I'm going to read some of the testimonials. So just bear with me. Tried to pick ones that I thought were really interesting and short. It gives me great pleasure to write you this letter. Before coming to the Free Enterprise Mine on May 5th, 1953, I suffered from migraine headaches for 34 years. Since my 6 visits to the Free Enterprise Mine, which would be 17 months ago, I have not suffered from the slightest with headaches of any kind, and it's a pleasure to live a normal life again. I certainly would not hesitate to recommend it to others from my own personal experience. Okay, let's see what we got here. This gives us a sense of what it's like down in that drift. It's crowded, it's narrow. I would love to know what those sticky notes say, like watch your head. Here's another one of our testimonials. This one is actually more recent. This is from 2005. The effects of the radon are real, and it works both for us and the dogs. There were people there from many different ailments, but mostly arthritis. Before leaving, Sharon, that's the wife, went from 6 strong pain pills per day to none, and still isn't taking any pain medication. She feels great. How long will it last? Nobody knows. The dogs were the most interesting. One could hardly walk, and after 1 hour per day for 3 days, it was jumping around in the parking lot like a puppy. Sharon did 54 hours in 10 days. Sammy, that's the dog, did 3 hours, and I did 40 hours. Lots of pain in my neck went away, but my daughter says it will return because I have always been a pain in the neck. Oh, well, I didn't like her until she turned 25, and now we get along. Great. Here's another one. Being a registered nurse, I was very dubious of the mine helping my husband Bert had tried most everything the doctor had recommended, and he had still gotten no relief from the pain. I had refused to let him have any sort of habit-forming sedatives, as I believed that to be the last resort. So we tried the mine, and on returning home, he had pain, but I really believe it was less and less. And at the end of 5 weeks, he was completely pain-free. He even returned to work and the hard work of the oil fields. This is my favorite picture, just being a nurse myself. There's no record at the Free Enterprise Health Mine of any nurse working there. So I imagine that she maybe was a private duty nurse who came with this particular woman. And this one is a little bit longer. But as I'm reading about the places where she has pain, I want you to pretend that you're doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and just touch where the body part is. I wish to express my gratitude to you and your men for allowing me to go down to the Free Enterprise Mine. It's done wonders for me. I first felt pain and aches about 10 years ago in 1942. Those pains and aches existed, you ready? In my toes, my ankles, my knees, my hips, my spine, my neck, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists, my fingers. I mean, this poor woman. I also experienced terrific pain in my jaw, causing a locking and a snapping. I doctored with a doctor in Dillon for about 6 to 8 months with no relief. I then went to Thermopolis, Wyoming for 3 weeks. No relief was felt from these treatments either, and those treatments consisted of hot baths, massages, and rest. I hadn't attended Mass for 3 years. I was not able to kneel down. I felt much pain in sitting down. Stiffness in my hips, knees, and ankles, unable me to climb stairs or even walk without assistance. I was unable to grasp a broom or any object any smaller. I could never sign my name to any papers, as I couldn't hold a pencil or a pen. Housework was out of the question. I couldn't stand the weight of the bed covers on me at night, no matter how light they might be. My daughter had to lift my head and place my pillow under it. Many times I was unable to get in or out of bed without assistance. February 28, 1952, I made my first trip to the Free Enterprise Mine in Boulder. I went down the mine at 2 p.m. on said date. I sat down there for 1 hour at the 85-foot level. The next day, February 29th at 10 a.m., I called my daughter-in-law to tell her I had no more pains or aches. I was able to do everything I was unable to do previous to that time. My pastor and neighbors will verify the change they saw in my condition since going down into the Free Enterprise Mine. So, lots of testimonials. This one I'll condense here a little bit. At one time, I felt it would only be a matter of time that I would be in a wheelchair, but since visiting the mine, I no longer have this dread. I hold down a responsible job in an office every day, which requires a clear head and not one clouded with anti-pain medicine. And now I do not take any medicine, not even aspirin, for my arthritis. My visits to the mine have helped me continue working, which has helped me financially. I'm more physically active to reduce my doctor bills and my medical bills, and I feel much better and younger than before I went down into the mine. So it looks like here some of these folks, boy, I don't know if they really got blown up, didn't they? These pictures. Anyway, they're holding their canes down here. Yeah.
Records or logs of the people who went down? Are there any records like that?
You would be amazed. It is a historian's jewel box at the mine. They have kept, and I'll show you a picture here in a minute, they have kept every single piece of documentation. It is incredible. Now, you have to be willing to sit up in their main lobby and get a little radiation in order to look at those, but my bunion has felt great since I've done this. But yeah, they have saved every document. It's incredible. It's incredible. I love this couple. They're sitting here holding rocks of uranium here and looking so hopeful, aren't they? And this one talks about her daughter who had chronic asthma since she was about 6 months old. She went to the mine a year and a half ago and has not had one asthma attack since. And I thank you and the Lord for saving her life. I also have pictures of Sugar the horse, who had some kind of a wasting disease. They're not good enough to try to put up on the projector here, but if anybody wants to look at Sugar the horse before and after, they did not take Sugar down into the mine. They gave Sugar radiated water from, I think it was maybe the Merry Widow mine, to drink. And lo and behold, Sugar is cured. It's amazing. I love this picture because it really gives us a sense of all types of people using the mines. You know, these folks here dressed in ordinary clothes and certainly their habits. And over here, they look like they're wearing their furs, their beautifully coiffured hair. I'm sure they have on, you know, they got on lipstick and nail polish. So all walks of life are coming to the mines trying to seek relief. Remember what the EPA, what the number of picocuries per liter, what was it? 4. Okay. Free Enterprise Health Mine is exceptionally proud of their number. They have the highest level of radon of any of the mines because you go down 85 feet into the ground and it's in an enclosed space. The other mines in radon health mines in Montana, the Earth Angel, the Merry Widow, you're not going all the way down into the ground. You're walking through a tunnel, or you're drinking the waters, or you're putting your feet and hands into the waters. But Free Enterprise 1720, that is a whopper dose of radon. How does it work? Well, this is the theory. First, we have hope, right? We got placebo, which is really powerful. Even if you know something is a placebo, it's very powerful. And the theory is that the radon triggers the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone. So the hypothalamus gets the trigger, the pituitary gland sends the message down, the adrenal glands then release cortisol, which has anti-inflammatory benefits. Right? So this is sort of the notion of how this all works. We're back here with Wade. You see the stacks of paper here. He's a geologist. He was a geologist and a mining engineer, not a medical person. And all of a sudden, he's got thousands of people who are coming to the Free Enterprise mine, going down into the earth, coming back up and saying, they feel great. And he's really stumped by that. It's not his area of expertise. And he starts to reach out to professionals to try to find out two things. One, is this even possible? And two, is it safe? Because he did not want to put anybody in harm's way, right? But remember the time period, 1949, 1952, 1955. Nobody's talking about safety issues around uranium, radiation, or radon. Is it safe? He reaches out to people like Linus Pauling. Anybody have heard of Linus Pauling? What do we know about Linus Pauling? Yep, and he is known for what? Vitamin C. He is the vitamin C guru. Apparently, Wade had a class with him in an undergraduate class. He's reaching out to Linus Pauling. What do you think might be going on? And should I be worried about this? He also reaches out to the Medical and Scientific Committee of the Atomic Energy Committee, trying to, again, is this safe for people? Is this okay for people? And other people are stumped. But yeah, low doses of radiation could possibly help you. Yeah, Maria, go ahead.
Were they still actively mining uranium? Like, I assume with all the people there, it's hardly mining around. Right?
No, he's not mining. He switched from the Elkhorn Mining Corporation to the Free Enterprise Health Mine. He's made that switch. Yeah, because I don't think you could be down there with your Geiger counters and
Because when the first
When the people first came from Los Angeles to tour it, he was still operating as a uranium mine. And they were curious about what those mines would look like in the West. Maybe they were going to be hunting for their own uranium. They just wanted an example. Went down, she came up, and the bursitis was gone. So that triggered this incredible, bombardment of people from across the country, Canada, seeking pain relief in this mine. And then other mines opened, like 4 or 5 other mines in the area opened up as health mines. So anyway, to get back to Wade, he's reaching out to everybody, local doctors, the local chapter of the Arthritis and Rheumatism Society, the National Society. He travels to Rochester, Minnesota. He meets with people at the Mayo Clinic. He meets with other healthcare professionals in that area. He's truly trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Every single piece of paper has been saved. He conducts a study for 7 years where he asks people who have been down into the mine to within 6 months, to send him a report of what their health status is. Many of those were notarized. So we've got all of this, notarized, certified testimonials from people about what the status of their pain is. My wish is I wish somebody had done a really longitudinal study with this, and they just didn't think that at the time. He also found that he was getting similar results from mines in Austria. So there are radon mines in Europe which are prescribed by physicians for people to go sit in the radon. I don't think it's probably the same 1,720 picocuries of radon that we've got here in Montana, but I don't know. He was getting similar results from the doctors out of Innsbruck University who were prescribing radon treatment for their patients. I want to introduce you to Dr. Barbara Erickson, a professor of anthropology at one of the California State Universities, and I cannot remember which one she is at. She's the woman who has done this extensive qualitative research around the mine and why people continue to use the mines even though we now have warnings, right, about the radon. And what she found, she came back and did, for 3 summers in the early 90s, where she was interviewing people. She ended up interviewing 69 people who were regularly using the radon mines. And she found that they were very well informed. They knew exactly what the dangers were of sitting in that high quantity of radon, but that their quality of life had been so awful beforehand that it was worth the risk. The side effects of their medication that they were taking were terrible, and it was worth it to just go sit in the radon mine, come back out, feel better, and not have to take any medication. It was expensive, but it created, there's such stigma, as we talked about at the beginning, that then people were hesitant to talk to their healthcare providers about the fact that they were sitting in the radon mines for pain relief, right? So we got to, as a nurse, you start thinking, thinking upstream then, what does that mean? If you're not honest with your healthcare provider, then your healthcare provider is probably not going to be able to treat you as consistently, I guess, as possible, because they don't know everything that you're doing. But she's really done amazing work, and I've spoken to her on the phone, and I think we're the only 2 human beings in the country that are interested in this topic. Anyway, Barb, great woman. Here's a more modern day picture. These gals are sitting down there playing Catan, just down in the tunnels. If you are claustrophobic and you don't want to go down into the tunnel, but you want to have some sense of what it's like down there, the Far Cry 5 video game tunnel was used, they sent a drone, the people who produced this video game, down through the tunnels, and I think it was 2010, and then are used those drone images to create this version of their game. So if you're a gamer, check out Far Cry 5, and you can see what it's like down there in those tunnels. Happiness is to be pain-free. That's the big heading over the front door of the Free Enterprise Health Mine. Let's go back to those fireballs. Anybody here like jalapeno peppers? Oh yeah, so the people who were like, yeah, this is child's play, probably really love the jalapeno peppers. This particular brand of fireball, the Ferraras, were first manufactured, I think in 1949, 1951, right at sort of the beginning of the atomic age. Lemon head candies, which also have like an exploding atomic bomb logo on them, were also created at the same time. It's a great time for atomic-themed anything, right? Games, candy. They rate at, I think, 3,500 on the Scoville scale, those atomic fireballs that you all put in your mouth. That equates to about 110 degrees. So if you had a difficult time keeping that in your mouth, now you know why. They're the hottest ones out there. They have both cinnamon and, I can never say this word right, capsaicin? Yes, that's it, in the fireball coating. So that's why they are as hot as they are. That's what's, oh great. Well, if you don't have bear spray with you, you can just throw the grizzly fireball and see what happens, right? Right. So thank you all for participating in that at the beginning of our talk here. Here's just some basic information about how much it cost and phone numbers and directions of the health mines. I just checked the Free Enterprise Health Mines website this morning, and their tunnels are closed right now, but they have an upstairs room, they call it the inhalation room, where they are piping radon up. And you can sit in very comfortable chairs. I have been in that room. I'm a little claustrophobic myself. I have not been down into the tunnels. I just don't like being in 85 feet under the ground. But I have sat in their inhalation room. It's quite comfortable. And they're piping the radon up into that room. And I think on their website right now, that's open 24 hours a day. Yeah. Some of the sources, I want to make sure that I thank Leah and Ryan Lewis, who are the owners of the Free Enterprise Health Mine right now. They have been extraordinarily generous with me as I have gone. Leah gets out all of the binders that are full of all the documentation. And, you know, it's just all there for me to enjoy. I've had a great time putting this together. I've taken my kids and my husband to places like Los Alamos, you know, where you get to stand between Robert Oppenheimer and General Groves. This was at Oak Ridge. They think I'm a little bit nuts, but they go along with me. Any questions before we play Elton? Yes?
Does anyone take exception to the notion of a health mine? I mean, because that's really not a safe mine.
I know that in the 1970s, there was an attempt to shut them down because of safety issues. And I have read many of the letters that were sent to Wade and to other agencies, because Wade kept copies of everything, protesting that shutdown. And I know that the health department in Montana has a hands-off attitude to it. But I also think, you know, if you're over, 21, you can smoke cigarettes. If you're over 18, you can ride a motorcycle without a helmet. You can even do lane splitting on a motorcycle without a helmet. I mean, right? They just wash their hands of it. Yeah, but that's an interesting question because it's an oxymoron, isn't it? The radon health mines, yeah.
It's almost like false advertising. I mean, it gives it
legitimate.
And maybe there is no. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Yes, sir.
Have they done any long-term studies to measure the health of somebody going into that and following them to see have they contracted cancer or something else that they didn't have when they went in, just to see whether that may have been a cause of illnesses down the road?
They have not, and I would love it. The only thing I've heard is that there was a mining engineer who worked with Wade, who was down in the mines every single day and finally died at age 91 from very natural causes. But that's an N of one, right? That we really would be interesting. But the folks who Barb Erickson interviewed said, that doesn't make any difference because my quality of life is so awful right now that it is worth the risk. It's worth the risk because living the way I'm living right now is miserable. I can't play pickleball. I can't go skiing. I can't do my artwork. I can't do anything. Yes? Yeah.
Was there any lawsuit, especially those companies that says that, uranium is safe? Like,
No lawsuits. Nope. And that was back in the day when, you were putting your feet in x-ray boxes. I think there was uranium in, somebody was telling me there was uranium in toothpaste, which I had never heard of before. And that it seemed really just safe. It was just very safe. But boy, wouldn't that be an interesting lawsuit? Yeah, thanks. Great question. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm a walking example. I built a cloud chamber with a radioactive source when I was a junior in high school, and I'm 80 years old, and I still feel fine.
You
So
just
I'm an example of one.
You glow a little bit, but interesting. I think about that game, the world's most dangerous game, and I think about, somebody opening that on Christmas morning, and maybe the dad or mom saying, "Oh, look, Junior, by the time the turkey's done, we can build an A-bomb." You've got everything right there, right? You're splitting the atom right there. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Yes, sir.
How does this relate to the radon in our homes and the health department working on that? And what is the radon level in these health mines? Do they know anything about that?
Yes, the radon levels in the health mines far exceed the high level of 4, which is what the EPA recommends as the high dose. I don't know if you remember the picture that had all of the levels of radon in the mine. I think that the free enterprise mine is 1,720 picocuries per liter, which is an overwhelming amount of radon. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, there's a contradiction between health concerns about radon in your home and
There is. There is a contradiction. You're right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm hearing about the safety problem, but from the science point of view, how is radon affecting the cells, affecting arthritis, affecting all these different health issues? What is it doing to our bodies?
Well, the theory is that cortisol then, the radon trigger is a little stressor, which triggers the pituitary gland to send messages to the adrenal gland to release cortisol, which is an anti-inflammatory agent. So that if you're somebody who has bursitis, arthritis, any of those things, your pain is going to lessen. But I've also seen reports from people who were there with prostate difficulties, who were there with asthma, who were there with migraines, who were there with diabetes. All sorts of, cardiac disease, you name it, and saying that they feel better. So, is it hope? Is it placebo? Is it cortisol? Is it a combination? We don't know. And Wade never claimed that he knew. He never claimed that he knew. Yes, ma'am.
Is the uranium
Uh-huh.
medication, is that still a thing today? Or
So are the mines still open? Is that what you're asking, the uranium mines?
well, the dose that was used in Austria, like,
Oh, yes, those mines are still open. The European mines are still open.
and are they used for? Are they still used for health wise?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are. I think that in those mines, in the European mines, I think they're able to better control the amount of radon that people are exposed to. You know, it's not like the ones in Montana are all, you know, a physician doesn't say, I'm prescribing you to sit in this level of radon for, 10 hours a week. They're all self-directed in Montana. In Europe, they are prescribed certain amounts of radon for certain periods of time. Montana, nobody's going to tell us what to do in Montana, right? It's all self-guided. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to say that using the cortisol levels for people that go sunbathing on the beach and people that go up in the air in airplanes all the time, it also raises also. So it's a hit or miss.
Hit or miss. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead, Maria.
I was wondering, so it sounds like there wasn't like a major backlash in the sense that you said there's no lawsuits or anything, but like obviously over time they stopped doing the x-rays of shoes, and they started doing the iron bib at the dentist. If they might have been doing that already, but and that there was this big boom in it at the beginning, but then I guess it was more of like a sort of gradual tapered as people became more aware of the risks of radiation.
When I talked to Leah Lewis, so she and her husband are the ones that own it right now, about maybe 6 months ago, about, what numbers of people are you seeing? She said the numbers definitely have dwindled. And she also said part of it is the cost of transportation and places to stay in Boulder. So I'm sure there's also the recognition that maybe radon isn't safe to sit in. But when people are desperate, she said she had just gotten off the phone with somebody from Boston who was trying to arrange to come to sit in the mines because of, I can't remember what the pain was, but it was something that was unbearable. But the cost of the airline ticket to get here from Boston, then a place to stay, they recommend about 10 days in a row. So you'd have to stay in Boulder for about 10 days in order to get the maximum benefit. But yes, certainly a tapering off. I would say right now, the free enterprise maybe gets 300 to 500 people a year. Where remember, it used to be 300 to 500 a day with riots, near riots breaking out, people concerned they're not going to be able to get into the mines. Yeah. All about the uranium.
I'm thinking about how if you work in healthcare and you work with x-rays or in the cath lab where they're using x-rays and radiation, the employees wear little clips on their lead aprons that keep track of how much they've been exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all monitored and followed, and if they have too much exposure, they can't work for a while. But they don't do that in the mines, like keep track of how much exposure people have had. That's what I find interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, there's nobody's monitoring. It's all self-directed. I
Yeah.
think you have to be over the age of 18, and if you're pregnant, you have to have a prescription from your healthcare provider if you're under the age of 18 and if you are pregnant. And those are the only limitations. Yeah.
Is there access to the testimonials, like if you want to look up headache or arthritis or this or that? Is there access to all those
Yep.
letters?
I would say call Leah Lewis at the Free Enterprise Health Mine and just tell her you're interested in doing research on the mines, and she will arrange a time to meet you, and she will have, if you're a legitimate person, you're not just, a curiosity seeker, she'll have all of those ready for you to come in. I've read hundreds of testimonials, hundreds of them. including Sugar the horse. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, thank you, everybody. If
Yeah,
you have more
thank you,
questions,
everybody.
I'm sure she'd